Donnie feels a shiver of fear throughout his shell. The fog parts, revealing gruesome, rotting corpses dragging their feet through the wet dirt. They groan and shuffle toward him. Donnie clambers back inside the mansion. "Dead dudes are a-comin'!" he shrieks. Damon, with wild eyes, assertively points at the party. "Suit up," he orders, before turning to Irina and Ismark, who have a confused expression. "Can you fight?" I know the blade." Ismark's voice is filled with doubt. Damon stares at the noble for a moment and hesitantly passes over his raven-hilted rapier. "Look after her," the detective reluctantly commands. "But I'm not very good at it." Ismark pouts at the sword with terror in his eyes.
"Anyone have a crossbow?"
Irina bravely demands. Donnie retreats into his shell. Rummaging sounds can be heard within. A few seconds later, his head pops out again. "No, sorry," he shrugs. "Blossom have pink stick?" The pink Mysterio hands her the light crossbow he found in Durst Manor.
"Perfect."
Irina loads it and puts it over her shoulder.
"Let's do this."
"Purge the unclean,"
Aru shouts with her axe raised. Everyone goes outside except for Irina, who pokes the crossbow out of a window, squeezing it between the boards. Ismark stands behind Damon, holding the rapier with both hands slightly shaking. The detective calls out, "Don't let them get inside." The party forms a line of defense for the house. Donnie flicks his hand and uses an illusion to mimic the call of a turtle nearby, causing the undead to cluster around the location of the noise. Lucian claws his hands and powers up a roar of kinetic energy before thrusting out an eldritch blast towards the herd, managing to punch through one's chest, ripping its flesh apart. The two halves continue to move independently. Damon aims his short bow and fires perfectly at the skull of the crawling zombie torso. "Now stay dead," he amusingly scoffs. The upper half collapses into the dirt, but the legs continue to stomp aimlessly forward. "Babalux!" Blossom flings out a fireball. The lower half sizzles as it is consumed by the flames. The dazzling fire grabs the attentions of the foul foes, bringing them away from Donnie's illusionary sound. "Can zombies be charmed? Be awesome to have a pet." Donnie ponders aloud, gazing out at the walking corpses in the fog. "Well, they do have a brain." "Not everything with a brain knows how to use it, mate." Ains mischievously smiles. The growls of the dead grow louder as they barrel towards their food. Donnie gathers water from the wet garden and fashions it into an ice knife. He flings it, hitting one in the eye. The icy shard cracks and shatters, tearing through flesh and bone, leaving frosted, bloody residue on its neighbour. Lucian claws his hands again. He harnesses a shimmering ball of energy and shouts, "By the power of the Old Ones!" Swiftly raising his arm above his head, swirls of demonic miasma surround him. He aims at one of the charging corpses. It is consumed by a pillar of bright red light and disintegrates into flakes which float away within the fog. Damon quickly throws his vision to the warlock in dismay, witnessing the display of dark arcana, only to see Lucian pleasantly pleased with his contribution. Ains slices his rapier across the neck of a zombie. The clean cut causes the head to fly off into the sodden grass, but the body lumbers towards him still, reaching out blindly with decaying fingernails. Ains is grabbed by cold, dead hands, when a hearty off-key war cry fills the air as Ismark lunges at the headless corpse with a fearful stab. He embeds the raven rapier, sliding it through its soft chest with ease. Ismark stands, his lips quivering in fear. He stares at the limp carcass at the end of the blade. Ains quickly kicks the body from the sword and it collapses at their feet, squirting black blood up like a fountain from the wound. The noble instantly vomits. Aru rushes towards the last remaining zombie with her axe raised high and an excited grin on her face. However, a bolt flits through the air and impacts its head. Aru spins, growling through her teeth, to see Irina cheerfully waving from the window.
"You gotta be kidding me! Not a single kill!"
She disappointedly stomps back toward the house, sulking. "Good work, team." Damon praises the group while keeping a sharp eye on Lucian, who heroically poses over the field of corpses. The detective shakes his head. The darkness he harbors. The necessary evil to bring her back. He tries to justify to himself. "I wasn't much help." Ismark holds his midriff. "This takes a particularly strong stomach." "The trick is to visualize their worth in gold looming over their heads. Makes it so much easier to go 'em." Ains demonstrates thrusting his blade forward and laughs. Ismark gives an unconvinced, disgusted expression. Taking life or unlife for that matter is not what I was built to do, I suppose. Ismark nauseously remarks. I'm just glad you are all here to do what I can't. Irina, having come downstairs, rushes to the group.
Ismark, did you see? Right between the eyes. Its brain leaked out and everything.
She smiles with glee. Ismark's face turns pale as he proceeds to vomit again. Later that evening, Donnie raids the pantry and cooks the group a surprisingly delicious vegetable stew. Ismark decides to rest in bed, curling up to a bucket, while Irina entertains their guests in the office next to a warm fire.
I have not had this much excitement before.
Irina embarrassingly smirks.
The thrill of the kill.
Aru grunts.
Well, for some of us.
She disapprovingly pouts and folds her arms.
I wish I had your courage to live without fear.
She looks over the group in the glow of the fireplace.
I could fix so many problems within the village.
Just because we are brave does not mean we're not scared. For some of us, our bravery appears to come from a place beyond intelligence. Damon takes a sip of wine, watching Blossom leaning a little too close to the fire. Irina looks down and strokes the button on her shirt.
Would you be willing to help solve some issues we have? It would take the burden off Ismark, and maybe our people will grow to trust me again.
What kind of problems and what's the pay? Ains asks bluntly.
People going missing in the village. My father was investigating.
Irina gestures to the desk layered with scrolls.
While it is not out of the norm, Barovia is a dangerous place. It happens far too often. Mostly women, but some men too. Some of the villagers return as thralls, but others not at all. The families deserve to know the fate of their loved ones.
Sic on tour. Blossom shows Irina the drawing of the missing girl.
Gertruda as well? Oh, she's such a sweetheart. Mary must be heartbroken. We need to find out what happened. It was Father's last request.
Irina holds her forehead with despair. What else is wrong? Donnie licks the bowl clean.
Well, you saw it today. Over the past month, the undead are becoming a large problem. No one is sure where they're coming from. Most are too decayed to be identified properly. But they do frequently seem to wear Vistani attire.
Have you found anything in your father's notes? Damon suggests, rubbing his chin.
Not really, but perhaps Zerpool. The Vistani camp to the north holds the answer.
Irina mimics the detective's thinking pose. We'll see what we can do. In the meantime, I'm rather unfamiliar with this land. Did your father have any books on the history or mythology of Barovia? I do prefer to approach a mystery well prepared. Damon asks politely.
Of course. I'm sure there is something in here. Somewhere.
Irina bashfully looks towards the piles of books spread throughout the office.
Sorry about the mess.
Not a problem. I've spent many a night rummaging through the family hoard of disordered knowledge. Ooh. Damon optimistically smiles, observing the stacks of books littered across the office. I'm sure I'll find something. So, is there a payment for saving your skin back there? Ains sheepishly slides into Damon's seat.
Oh, well, yes, we have some funds and also a few old family heirlooms in the attic which are probably worth something.
Irina points to the ceiling. Do you mind if I peruse them for quality purposes? Ains raises his eyebrow. Perhaps we should wait on Ismark. I wouldn't want to take any valuable keepsakes. Damon gives a displeased smirk towards the drow while holding a dusty book. All right. Ains lifts his hand in dispirited agreement.
Yes, I believe I will leave the matter to my brother, since he is now in charge of the estate.
Irina sighs with sadness.
I should try to sleep now. The funeral is in the morning. You may use the guest rooms upstairs. Just please do not disturb my father's chamber. I want it to remain as it is.
She then leaves the room. The party decide it may be best to stick together and find a place to sleep within the office. Aru takes a leather armchair too small for her size. Donnie and Ains choose opposite sides of the sofa. Lucian sinks into the other chair and Blossom curls up on the floor by the fire. Damon gradually passes out at the desk, reading a dusty tome. The night flows uneventfully, and Damon awakes feeling surprisingly refreshed, only to be accosted by the abrasive smell of garlic and decay once more. Ismark enters the office dressed in a grey uniform, adorned with his family crest of a phoenix. He has a stern frown, attempting to hold in his sorrow. "Good morning. Ready yourselves, please," he states firmly. Damon stands and dusts down his trench coat. "Morning. When are we leaving?" "Soon," the noble simply states, and leaves the room fiddling with his cufflink. The rest of the group slowly open their eyes. Damon calls out, "Clean yourselves up and look presentable. We are going to the church, post-haste." Ismark embraces the shoulder of Irina, who is wearing a black dress with a netted veil obscuring her face. With his other hand, he slowly closes the lid of the coffin. "It's time," he says, followed by a controlled exhale. The paladin and the detective agree to help Ismark carry the coffin out of the house and down the street, while Irina and the rest of the party follow closely behind. A few people in the street witness the procession. Most frown and watch Irina intensely. As the party ends up at the main road, Damon spots Morgantha in the distance, her lower half covered in mud, knocking at the door of one of the residents. She hands over a small package from her cart. The old woman briefly looks over to the procession with a strangely satisfied smile, before the neighbour passes over a large sack, which she places on her cart. The rogue squints with suspicion before focusing on lifting the coffin. Approaching the church, a faint sound can be heard, like something in the distance howling. Ains and Donnie scan the tree line for wolves, but as they get closer, the sound becomes more distinct. A pained voice calling out, "Please, Father, let me out!" Donnie shifts his eyes around with concern as he realizes the voice is coming from within the church. A large-bellied priest in brown robes softly plods out to greet them. "Greetings, my children. May I say, Colion was a fine man, a great supporter of the church, and a kind leader of our community. I am deeply saddened by his passing." He bows gently. Irina nods in return.
"Thank you, Father Donovich."
"He was a good man, your father, a true beam of light sent by the Morning Lord himself. It will be an honor to read him his last rites, please." The priest shifts to one side and invites the procession into the church. The coffin is placed down on the cold stone floor. Aru grimaces at the dull grey walls of the church, unimpressed by its simple decoration of yellow sunrise banners.
"Ha! Kinda empty for a church, and boring."
Her voice echoes against the barren walls. "Not many folk attending the funeral of their beloved leader," Ains jeers. "Probably 'cause she got vampired," Donnie shrugs, eyeing Irina. Damon forces a cough with a hardened stare, in an attempt to get them to be quiet. "Not the time or the place," he whispers. "Show some decorum." Ismark shakes the priest's hand. "Father Donovich, thank you." "Welcome, welcome." Donovich comfortingly smiles at the young nobles, and while slightly confused, he offers the same to the party. "You are foreigners, yes? Are you familiar with the Morning Lord?" Donnie and Ains look at each other wide-eyed and shrug. Damon smugly nods, eagerly in confirmation. "Ah, yes, an old epithet of the god Lathander, deity of new beginnings, light and rebirth." Lucian huffs and rolls his eyes at the absurdity of organized religion, and Blossom looks up thoughtfully, attempting to recall anything about sunshine gods, only to have a familiar booming voice fill his mind.
"Aye, the Morning Lord. He's a mate of mine."
Morning Lord, friend?" Blossom unconfidently asks, looking around for the source of the voice, realizing he is the only one who heard it. "Indeed, he is a friend of the fallen, and gives us hope of a better life after this one." Father Donovich proudly chuckles. "It warms my heart to hear his message extends far beyond the fog." The pleading howl calls out again. "Please, Father, I'm starving!" Damon notices how Donovich, Ismark, and Irina attempt to ignore it. The priest quickly ushers the nobles to a side door leading outside. "The grave has been prepared on the Indrovich plot. I know how your father enjoyed watching the sun rise, so I have placed his grave facing to the east. rather than within the mausoleum. Irina and Ismark briskly follow him through the churchyard, inhabited with several fresh and ancient graves. The party tries to keep up. He would appreciate it, Ismark solemnly states as they come to a stop outside a grey stone tomb bearing their family crest. I don't mean to pry, Your Holiness, but Damon gestures towards the church, while the wails can still clearly be heard. You needn't concern yourself. It is all under control. The priest nervously twiddles his fingers. Damon bores his eyes into the church master. Really? The detective states with a condescending tone. It's just my boy, Doru. He's not well. I am taking care of it. The priest gives an unconvincing smile and draws attention to a hole in the ground. Here! Perhaps we should discuss this after the service, the detective suggests, but fails to receive a reply. The father gestures to the cleanly carved tombstone with an image of a rising sun. It reads, Koilan Indrovich, Burgermeister of Barovia, faithful husband, loving father, son of the dawn. Perfect. We should get farther. Ismark eyes to Aru and Damon as they walk back to the church to carry the coffin into the grave. The cries of the unknown plead once more. Please, father, I beg you. Damon confronts Ismark for information. What are those screams? Does the priest have a prisoner? What's going on? One should mind their own affairs, Ismark snaps. Damon grumbles, providing an intermission for his investigation, and they carry the casket to its final resting place. The coffin is lowered into the grave and the skies part. It begins to rain, accompanied by distant thunder. Irina places a piece of parchment with a warding symbol on the lid of the coffin.
You saved me from the orphanage and brought me into your home. You made me your daughter, showed me love, and gave me comfort. I am endlessly grateful. You are, and forever, will be my hero. Go forth to the sky and be free. I love you, Dad.
Ismark approaches the grave and takes a deep breath. You told me when Mother died that there is a reason for all events, even death. But I'm afraid nothing will ever justify this pain. I don't think I will ever be able to replace you. Barovia has lost a champion. Goodbye, Father. He embraces his sister. Tears and rain roll down their cheeks. Father Donovich quietly opens his book. There is a rustle in the grass, snapping of twigs. All eyes turn to see who approaches. The air fills with sorrowful screams, drawing in closer until it is uncomfortably sonorous. Blossom clamps his ears. A well-dressed figure stands at the edge of the grave with a cunning smile. He calmly sneers. My condolences.